Hello and welcome to Nethergreen. I am your host, Bradley Welling. This is my podcast and it is just me talking for 2 hours. We're going to have fun here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You get to hear this for 120 minutes.
That's right, me.
Who the fuck is that?
I'm you, I'm Bradley Welling.
Holy shit.
My name is Bradley Welling and I like cocks in my ass.
Hey man. Hey. How you doing today?
Yeah. No, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So yeah, welcome. This is a general topic podcast. We're just going to chat some shit and shit some chat.
Yeah, probably talk about things that, most normal sane people would never ever want to talk about or hear about.
But we're also going to talk about movies and stuff.
Yeah. The topic everyone wants to hear about.
It's true.
The movies, We all love them, we all watch them. There's very few people that don't watch movies.
That's very true.
It's true.
I have never met a man who's never watched a movie.
That's the thing, There aren't any. There is no person that hasn't seen a movie, TV
that's
show.
Probably, I'm sure there's like Amish people who have never.
Actually, that's true, yeah. Maybe like.
But I've never met an Amish person.
Yeah, no, that's true. At least, in the UK, the people that you'll meet in your day-to-day life, all of them, will have seen movies, they will have seen TV.
And we're not just going to talk about stuff like that, we're going to talk about random things. Things of randomness. It's going to be an interesting topic when we get to it.
Like, what might happen to a man if he's locked in a room for what was it, 21 days? 21 days.
Yeah. We're also going to talk about, what else were we going to talk about? We had another specific topic we were going to bring up.
Another specific topic we were going to
We had another specific topic we were going to bring up. What was it? We were talking about it on the field.
The owl. No, there was something else.
There was something else, but now you brought up the owl, should we talk about the owl?
Oh, the owl, man. That was a weird scenario.
It was something I'd never experienced. So me and my good friend Hector, who maybe one day we'll have on the podcast, we were in a field listening to music, having a good time, when a gentleman our age begins to approach us, and we were like, oh no, we're gonna get in trouble somehow. Maybe this field is actually owned by this man and we are trespassing.
He's about to tell us off, give us a smack bottom.
He's called the police. But instead he walks over, he's like, you alright guys? And then he lifts his arm up and a big white fucking owl
just a massive fucking bird of prey
onto his arm. Just
fucking flies out of the sky and lands onto his fucking leather glove.
It was incredible. And then he was like, I don't want to, I don't want to tell you what to do or anything, I'm not in that position, but I was wondering, is there any chance if you could move, because
your music... so polite. Why was he so polite?
He
was the most polite man you could ever hope.
You know what I think he was? He's trying to raise his owl correctly, he wants his owl to
his owl was watching and being like, okay, I'm going to be like this.
But he was like, the music and the voices, is there any chance, you could just go a little bit further? Again, I can't tell you what to do. And he was a very nice man.
He was the nicest man you could hope to meet.
And we were like, we moved. Why wouldn't you move for the man with an owl on his arm? You don't stand up to that man. Yeah. There was fear in our eyes, but also love for that beautiful owl.
I mean, he came over and for half a second we both just kind of stood there in awe that we were out smoking and a man with a fucking giant owl on his arm just came up to us. And at first I was like, bro, what's happening?
I can honestly say it's never happened to me. I've never been in this situation.
I don't think many people have had a man with a giant owl approach them.
I hope it happens again, though. I hope we meet him again, because he was a lovely man.
Maybe it will. It was, it was destiny. It was meant to be.
It was. So. It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was.
Right. Well, I've forgotten what the other topic was. So let's move straight on to this Vsauce video. Before we talk about the actual thing, we should talk about the source of it. Vsauce, Michael here. is a educational YouTuber, I guess you could describe him.
Yeah, kind of into psychology and mathematics.
Yeah, and my favourite video of his, personally, is he made this video. It was a great video about the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Which is like the effect where something that isn't human looks human, like mannequins and masks and all that sort of stuff, and how that is like innately creepy to a person. Like he does really interesting stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he had a YouTube original show, Mindfield, which is now available for free.
Which I didn't know until you told me. Which you didn't know,
and which is great because I love Vsauce, but I was never going to pay to watch.
I mean, I remember originally seeing him releasing them, and they were only available if you bought them, or there was like a streaming service you had to pay
the
for
YouTube Red.
That was it. Yeah, and you couldn't get them. I remember when they came out, he released like a couple.
I think the first one or two were free. I think.
Yeah. Like, he released a couple on YouTube for people to watch, to kind of, like, let people get invested or interested in it.
Come on, kiddies, watch my show.
but no, I couldn't justify it, so I never saw it. I didn't know he released it for free.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, and it's fucking good. It's very good.
And we watched the very first episode, which is called Isolation. And man, it's a roller coaster of emotions. So, the main premise is that Vsauce, Michael here, he locks himself in a room for 3 days. 3 days, Morty. We're going to be locked in this room for 3 days. He
was locked in the room for 3
days. 72 hours he spent alone in a white room with no...
The headphones unplugged. Is that important?
Nah, it'll be fine.
It's not, okay.
With no... no distractions.
There's nothing. So he was basically in... a box, a plain square box with no windows. The door was painted white. The walls were white tiles. The ceiling light was permanently on. It was a white LED light. There was like a toilet and a piece of furniture in there, both of which were white.
He also he had no food. He was drinking like shakes.
So he had like 9 shakes to last him the 3 days, and he had like a bunch of bottled waters, and all of those were white as well. The whole room was just white, and he was dressed in white.
The only colour he would see was his poo.
He had to stay in there for 72 hours, and like on the first like sleep cycle, he only slept for like 5 hours, and he woke up and he thought it was.
He woke up at like 4 in the morning.
He woke up at 4 in the morning and thought, it's like, he was saying on camera, it's like 9 a.m, 10 a.m, but no, he was like, and then it got to the end, and he was 12 hours. He thought it was Saturday and he was supposed to come out, but he was actually 12 hours behind.
Well, at one point he was like a full 24 hours.
Yeah, imagine that.
Now, before he went into the room, they actually say on camera that. They say that 3 days in a room like this with this like lack of stimulation is enough to cause like permanent brain damage. So he was like risking a lot walking into this room, and Michael Stevens is one of the most powerful brains. He's got such big dick energy, almost as much as the Owl Man.
No, he's a genius. He's a
genius. He really is. He's an incredibly clever human being, and and you could really see the effect it had on him. Like, he was not happy.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
You could see, like, at the beginning he had so much energy. His brain was whirring.
He was confident. Like, he was like, I can do this, 72 hours isn't anything.
And then he thought it was time to go out, and in an actual fact he had 12 more hours till he could leave. And those 12 hours were where he, like, started to break.
Yeah.
Like, he started to, like, freak out.
And he mentions how his dreams had like turned into him in the room, and thus his dreams and his reality were bleeding into each other. Like, he didn't know when he was dreaming and when he was awake, which is like a terrifying thought.
It's a really weird concept.
Horrifying concept.
And like towards the end, he obviously started to bug out, and he went up to the door and tried, and opened it and like peeked out, and all of the experimenters were like, "What? No, get back in!"
Oh my god!
And then he went back inside, but he started to break. To break. What was it we were saying? There was a person that did it for 21 days.
Yeah. So because so for some context, we are both media boys. I am a scriptwriter for film and television, and Hector is
website developer.
He's a website developer, but he's also a cracking cinematographer and editor. You're a good boy at that shit. You know what you're doing with a camera. Mm. And yes, and I had, when we watched it, it fucked us both up a bit because it's a terrifying concept. And I thought, this could be a fun thing for a podcast. Let's plan a movie together. Me, Hector, and whoever listens to this, except you won't really contribute much. You won't, yeah.
You're just listening. Don't
really
get too hyped up.
You don't need to be here, okay? We're letting you in. You should be paying us for this shit.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, let's plan a horror movie. And the main idea of it was how far can we take it? Now, the original premise was 3 weeks. So a man is trapped in essentially the exact same room that Michael Stevens, Vsauce Michael here, was trapped in, where it's just a white cube and everything's white and complete, the door's locked. That was a difference. In Vsauce's video,
he could leave whenever he wanted.
Yeah, and he chose, he was determined to last the full...
At one point he did open the door and peek out, but he came back in.
Which we theorised, because they say in it that they thought that he had a dream and he got confused. We theorised 2 possible dreams. Either he dreamed that he had escaped the room, or he dreamed that he was locked in.
And he started to bug out thinking, oh my god, what if I'm locked in?
So he had to check the door.
Yeah. Because at that point you would start to question reality for being in there for so long. Eventually you would be like, hang on a second, what if I'm locked in here? I have to check.
Yeah, man.
It would destroy you. You would eventually have to try and open the door.
But he was a Chad and he survived, he did it.
He went back in. He
went back in. But yeah, so he's locked in. And the man has left him enough food and water and resources to last a month, and tells him that in 3 weeks he will inform the police of where he is. And that's the entire movie. It's one man in a room in this terrible situation. How is he going to cope? But that's just the groundwork. That doesn't actually have to be the entire movie. We could do some flashback shit. We can show who's locked him in the room. Let's plan it now.
There'll need to be reasons why. It can't just be, the intro to the movie can't be random guys inside a room. You need to give it backstory. You need to talk about...
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do now, man.
Yeah.
All right. So, first of all, is 3 weeks too long? Should we make it 2?
I mean, no. I think
21 days.
You see... When you're thinking about something like this, I feel like most people would say, after those 3 days, I'd be freaking out trying to open the door, try to get out. After 5 days, I'd definitely be freaking out. But yeah, okay, so let's say, it's been 5 days, you're in there for 5 days instead of the 3 days. And you've been in there and you're thinking, my God, they have to let me out sometime soon. And if the door is locked, you spam the door, trying to open the door. At what point do you freak out? Knowing that, rationally, okay, I'm just in an experiment, people are watching me, they have to let me out in 5 days. Otherwise, it's illegal for them to do that. They have to let me out in 5 days. At what point would you realistically break and start being guys, okay, this is over. You have to let me out.
But that's another angle we could go in with the film. Whether or not he actually believes there are guys watching, whether or not he actually believes anyone will come. Maybe he believes he's just left there to die.
Yeah. But yeah, so taking that idea, take it a step further. Let's say, you've been trying the door, you're shouting, you've been in there seemingly for ages, you've been in there for 7 days, 8 days. Could you do you think a normal person would actually have what it takes to kill themselves?
And that could be the main idea of the film, the main theme.
Because
how far?
I don't think briefly thinking about it, you don't really think about what that actually means. Do you actually there's people that are depressed, there's lots of people that will feel that way, but to be without any kind of tool to let you do it other than a sink and a toilet, would you actually have what it takes to do that? That would take you'd need to be extremely damaged to be able to do that. And the journey leading up to that would be an interesting journey to look at.
But this room seems like it damages you, man. Look at Vsauce was in there for 3 days, and 2 days in, he mentally felt like he'd already been in there for the entire time. In 21 days.
An extra day. So he was in there for 3 days. He believed he was in there for 4, essentially. Yeah. So let's take it like that. So if the person is in there for 21 days, 21 days.
It could feel like 2 months.
It would feel like, no, it would feel like plus a third. 2 days is 2/3. You add an extra third to it, it'd be 30. He'd believe he'd be in there for 31 days. An extra 10 fucking days. Like, more than a whole week.
Man, yeah.
And the thing is, would he trust that the letter is real? You know, in this situation, when you're looking at something that's surreal, does he even believe that it's real life? You know, because if you think about it, for him, logically, it would actually be more probable that he is dreaming. As a fact, as like, you know, a statistical fact, logically, it would be more probable that he just fell asleep at home and is having a dream than that would actually happen. Because the chance of that happening is so small, it seems so unrealistic. Would he even believe that he's in, like, the real world?
There's so much the idea of the film could delve into. So let's start at the beginning. All right, who is this guy? You know, what age is he? What does he do? How does he see the world? Because Vsauce is a very specific man, and we saw how he broke.
Let's assume the person doing this has a reason for doing this. So
I mean the guy who's in the...
Yeah, I know. So to figure that out, you need to understand the motives of the person doing it. So what does doing that to someone achieve? And then if you figure out what it achieves, you can figure out why they would do it. If you see what I mean. So what would doing that to someone ultimately do? What are the meanings behind doing that to someone?
Alright, filmmaker brain. I would scriptwriter brain, whatever. I would say if he's in there for 21 days, maybe he did something to someone over a 21-day period, and they want him to feel the way that person did over that 21 days.
But it'll be something to do with isolation, because he's isolating him on his own, making him question things.
But I think the time needs to be connected to the motive.
Yeah, it could be that, you know, maybe he has a partner or someone close to him who he manipulated. And maybe he was abusive and he kept someone at home, restricted them from seeing people, restricted them from going out, trapped them in their room permanently, made them question everything about their life. You know, that's kind of all the things that happens when, you know, a lot of the time you get people that will do that to someone in a relationship. They'll completely control them and abuse them, like, mentally.
So the guy in the room is, he's a bad guy, but obviously he doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, kind of like, you know, not to rip off Saw, but, you know, I feel like, you know, it kind of, unless the person doing it, maybe they are just doing it on an innocent person, but they have a very personal, sort of like serial killers. A serial killer will do something because of an inner affliction or something that happened to them in their past, similar. So, like, you know, a man that, you know, murders people in a certain way is because of a way that, you know, a traumatic past event.
Maybe, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of the abusive relationship. Maybe he was in a relationship with a girl for fucking years, and the last 21 days of that relationship was hell. Eventually the girl escaped him. She gets with a new guy. Something happens that triggers her kind of trauma, her post-traumatic stress. She can't take it. She, you know, kills herself. He blames the ex, and he goes after the ex, and he knows how bad that last 21 days got, so he wants to give him 21 days of hell. Maybe something like that. I don't know, that's just me spitballing, you know?
Yeah. I feel like a man would need more motivation to do something like that, or he was already unhinged, if you know what I mean. To do something that insane, you would need to be already, like, a severely unhinged person to be able to do that to someone. Because think about, where did he get the setup? How did he get the setup? If he was like if he's like someone who's been festering in, like, mental agony, anguish and torment, or, like, you know, he's completely insane, a murderer, he could build up over his lifetime, and it's like his like magnum opus. This is his experiment or something.
The guy who's putting the guy in the room, the bad guy, that's the ex. He had a brief 21-day relationship with this girl. He thinks she's the love of his life. She leaves him and gets with this new guy. And he's like, nah, like, I had my 21 days of happiness, I'm going to give him 21 Days of Hell. It all goes back to 21 Days of Hell, but that's the thing. It needs to. It needs.
But how
to
does he? How does he get the setup to do that? Who is he?
Yeah, that's the thing. Who is he? I mean, to do that, you would need at least some sort of power, like money or land or something like that.
What's the horror movie that's about like really, really rich people and they set up like a would you rather torture chamber for people?
That movie's called Would You Rather.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd never have guessed.
It's got Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys in.
Is it actually?
Yeah. In fact, I watched that before I watched Trailer Park Boys, and I never noticed. And then I rewatched Would You Rather. I was like, holy shit.
That's very cool.
It is. But yeah, like maybe, I don't know. So yeah, maybe he's rich, but he's rich, but he is slightly disturbed, and and that's why she tried to make it work.
Yeah.
Because he's rich. She was a bit of a gold digger, you know.
Yeah.
And he was happy, but he wasn't. You know, she very much wasn't, and the money wasn't worth it. So she leaves and gets with a everyman, a guy who's an actual genuine nice soul.
Yeah.
Who can make him a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's fucking hates it, and he's like, nah, man. Again, this is the third time I'm gonna say this today. I've had my 21 days of good. You're gonna have 21 days of hell. You know, because it's got to come down to 21 days.
Yeah. So that could be it. That could be it. Maybe this man. Maybe the rich man is abusive. Like, you know, throughout the start of the movie, you start to see that this man is showing kind of signs of like controlling. He doesn't want the girl seeing anyone, going anywhere, doing things. And it's kind of an introduction into what this man enjoys doing to people. He enjoys making people feel isolated and controlling them and keeping them. And then she breaks up with him and he explodes with rage, seething with rage.
Maybe the room was meant for her, but she escapes.
Well, and then she goes to a new man and he just goes completely insane and kidnaps him and puts him in this fucking room.
Maybe she was, because the anger really needs to be directed to the man, so maybe he also finds out she was like cheating on him.
Yeah, maybe it's cheating. Yeah, maybe she doesn't leave him. He finds her cheating with this guy.
Oh, he finds that she's been cheating for the past 21 days.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good. And with rage, he puts him in this room, locks him in there. However, what is the motive for him letting him out? So, you know, he's put him in there, but if he just puts him in there and never specifies that he's going to come out, then, you know, obviously he's going to have to break at some point.
Well, I just thought of a really dark ending. Really dark ending for it. The room maybe the door has an automatic lock, like an electronic one. 21 days are up, the door unlocks. He opens it, cement, concrete wall. He's never leaving the room. And he survived that 21 days. Is that too dark?
I don't know, man.
I love dark endings, you know that.
Because the thing is, it's, you know, yeah, that's a seriously fucked ending. But at the same time, you'd be leaving out a big portion of, like, stuff that would happen afterwards, aren't you? You're kind of cutting it short. That would be, like, such a, from the viewer's perspective, I'd be so triggered. Okay, how about this? We show him, like, you know, the police coming, escaping. We show all of that. And then we have that reveal. So we show what could have happened. And then we cut to the reveal that no, he didn't leave. He opened that door. He opens the door, there's a big bright light. And through the bright light, there's police. And then at the end, we recreate the shot. He opens it to the concrete. And you realise, like, oh no, he hallucinated all of that. And the audience can feel it. They could be like, no, that probably is what actually happened. But, or maybe it didn't. Maybe he was just mentally traumatised by that wall, and mentally he never escaped. However, that's big cut.
Who's this character with the squeaky voice?
My name's Squeaky Jim.
Squeaky
I got
Jim.
a squeaky voice.
He's joined us for a chat.
However, we would be leaving out a big part of, like, character exploration, because we would never see how he would react after coming outside? Because that's a big part. How would you react if you've survived for 21 fucking days inside one room and someone opens the door? Like, you're seeing human faces in the real world for the first time.
You know what? It's actually going to sound really weird, but Bo Burnham inside does that really well. And for him, by the end, the idea of that one is that he, like, doesn't want to leave the room. He does, but he doesn't think he can. Maybe that's how it ends. He can't leave the room by the end. Like, he's too scared to. He's accepted his life in the room.
Because, yeah, it's now, when you've spent that much time in there, it's now, like, it's consumed all, like, everything. It's all you know. You know, you've been in there for such a long time.
He doesn't even recognise his wife's face. When he sees her again.
Yeah, man, there's so many possible endings you could do for it.
Yeah, man.
He could come out and be totally unhinged and then start doing it to other people. So now he becomes the mentally insane person and he starts doing it to other people.
Nah, I don't think audiences would appreciate that.
No?
Nah.
You think that's too, like, cringe?
No, not cringe, but just, like, I don't think the audience would find that necessary. I think they'd be like, because like, that seems like we're opening it to like a fan choice. Like,
actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
like it's going to be a new Freddy Krueger, like the 21-day room killer. Like, no, I like the idea that this experience, as fucked up as it is, has happened to this one man. He has to live with that. Yeah. You know, and he doesn't want to give that to someone. Or maybe he does. Maybe the ending is he locks the wife in the room because he wants her to know how it feels. Maybe he locks them both in the room. He hides her into the room and he forces the lock closed. And he's like, we live here now. Yeah. We're room people now.
Room people.
We are room people.
Oh, that's brilliant. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would be interesting to see how a person would react to coming back into the real world. Would he become completely isolated? Would he stop talking to all of his friends? Will it actually have destroyed his life? Or will he just go on as things were before? Because spending that much time, would it wipe you clean? What would it do to you?
I think it also kind of depends. Like, we haven't talked much about it, but it depends on who he is. Who is this guy entering the room? How strong is he? Is he Bruce Wayne? Because I feel like Bruce Wayne could do it. If any human could do it, it'd be Bruce Wayne.
Most definitely.
But that's the thing. We're not gonna have the ending of the thing be like, he came out totally fine. He overcame all the odds. No, this is gonna fuck this man up.
Yeah, I mean, it would.
Because we just got to figure out how much.
We need to keep it real, because you need to think about what would be the stages that this man would go through. I theorise that at first, after a while.
What stages did Vsauce go through?
Well, it's different for Vsauce because he had like another layer of
he knew
protection.
Released, yeah.
First of all, he knew people were watching, so there was like the social pressure of not looking ridiculous on camera, and then there was also knowing that, you know, kind of like the calming sense that he has chosen to go in here.
Sorry, just quickly, you mentioned the part about not looking ridiculous on camera. He did technically poo on camera.
I mean, no, it's like it was hidden from camera.
Yeah, but there's camera footage of him. You could probably hear him doing a poo.
Yeah, but obviously they're going to cut that.
Yeah, but that footage exists. The footage.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, his family and people watching, if he does anything, like, you know, super weird.
Do you think, I know obviously they would never have shown it, but here's a question for you. Do you reckon he masturbated?
No, he wouldn't have done. Not in front of his family, no.
No, because that's another thing.
Because his mum was there, watching.
Yeah, but okay, but here's a question then. How much is our main character going to masturbate? How much would you masturbate?
That is a really interesting part to bring into it.
Because if you've got nothing to do, no other stimulus, but eventually, like, it would grind down. Like, you wouldn't even know how many times you've masturbated in how much of a short period.
Yeah. Man, I think that's too weird of an area to delve into for the film.
But it's realistic.
It is real, but it is weird to think about. But I don't want to delve into that, because then that's delving into like a whole like weird sexual aspect of human nature, which isn't. No, that's not fit for YouTube either. So we're going to give that a miss. But I think one part of Vsauce's one that would be lacking from this, which is interesting, is social pressure. Like, you know, if you knew that your friends and your family were watching you, you would, like, in the back of your mind be like, okay, don't do anything too crazy. People are watching you. Right, but this guy's going to have that. He can go crazy. He can go mental straight away.
Another possible ending. He comes out of the room, he discovers that all of it was broadcast. It was all live streamed. Everyone in the world was watching.
Oh my god, that would be so
They
embarrassing.
all watched him go mad. It's like a fucked up Truman Show ending.
No. No, just no. But, like, that's true. Vsauce had, like, extra layers of protection.
No, it is, yeah.
What if he was just so, if this man is just put in there, and on the letter it says, you've been kidnapped, you're being let out in 21 days, what would you do? Would you go mental? I feel like at first you'd have, like, calm, sort of fearful realisation, but, you'd be calm to know I'm going to be out in 21 days.
No, I actually disagree. I think that at first it would be anger. It'd be like, what is this? You'd be trying to bust your way out of the room. You'd be like, what's going on here?
That's a good point, yeah.
I would feel, I would immediately be like, what the fuck? I feel like I would immediately get angry and panicky.
Yeah, I think it depends on your personality. I'd probably think about it.
Before we get into to discuss this any further, then, who is this guy? What sort of guy is going in this room? We've got to figure it out. What if he is, like... Alright, I mean, as we know, there are only two types of people. Jocks and nerds. Those are the only two genders.
First of all, we need to think about what type of person would be most interesting.
That's true.
That's the most important thing.
Vsauce was interesting, but I don't know if you want a Vsauce. We don't want a really smart.
I think something important is for this person to be relatively self-aware and intelligent, to be able to understand what's going on, because otherwise if it's someone who kind of like doesn't have much like awareness, like lacks intelligence, they're just going to freak out.
He shouldn't be as smart as Vsauce. I don't think he should be like a psychologist.
No, he shouldn't be a psychologist.
He shouldn't understand what's happening to him.
It's like your average working class man that's like got a decent job, has a nice car, has a nice house, good family, he's hardworking, he's a good guy.
We make it like a school teacher who has like a basic knowledge of it,
basic knowledge of psychology. So he'll kind of have sort of like self-awareness of what's happening to him.
Yeah. Maybe he's like, wow, I wish I discussed this in lesson.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be a part of it. Maybe he gives like imaginary lessons out loud. He just speaks them out loud like he's speaking to a class.
Yeah, this is the other thing. Involvements in, like, what he did in his life, like, actually did day to day in his life before entering this room, because that would have a big,
Well, just quickly.
If he was a football player, he'd be, like, finding something to kick around on the floor. If he was, like, a musician, he'd be singing or, like, trying to play music. I
think it's ironic that my first film is at the end of the wall, and this one's going to be at the end of the room.
Oh, my God. That's actually really cool. That's perfect, That's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking...
I don't think we should make him, like, a famous figure or anything. We want him to be an everyman. We don't want, like, national attention.
Yeah.
Because also, I feel like if it was, like, if a Leo DiCaprio was in that situation, I feel like he would feel like he was going to get found. He'd be like, people are looking for me. This guy should be like, who's going to look for me?
Yeah.
Who important is looking for me right now?
It adds the extra element of, extra pressure.
Yeah.
Because realistically... even then, at what point is he going to question whether or not he's actually going to be let out? Because 21 days is a long time. At some point, the thought is going to come into his mind, they're not letting me out.
Yeah.
I'm never getting out of here. He's going to start, like, going crazy at some point thinking that. When would it be? And it depends on his character. Who is he?
Exactly.
Who is this man?
If it was a school teacher... I kind of like the school... What do you think of the school teacher angle?
I like the kind of, like, lectury angle of it. Maybe a university lecturer.
Mm.
Like, a lecturer. He lectures in front of people, he's usually around people. He talks, he gives monologues, and that will be helpful for filming it as well. Because if he's giving monologues, then it's like, that's dialogue.
Yeah. And that's going to be a big part of it, because, Vsauce did it too, but obviously he had the cameras, but I feel like you'd have to talk to yourself.
Yeah,
like you would have to.
I personally have like a second. What do you call it? A second.
Yeah, like a second voice.
Yeah, like a second voice all the time. When I'm thinking or doing stuff through the day, you're like, you're talking to yourself. You're talking through
a dark passenger.
Yeah, no, we would want that type of person because it builds interesting dialogue. If it's just someone there doing stuff, if it's all based on visuals, I feel like that's not only quite challenging, but it might be, if done wrong, which it could be done wrong easily if it was all visuals. You know, it'd be disinteresting. It wouldn't be.
No. You know, there's actually a good film that did do it in a visual way. Have you ever heard of the film Gerald's Game?
No.
So it's based on a Stephen King book. And it's based on a woman called Jessie and her husband, Gerald.
Gerald.
It's his game.
That's funny.
And they go to a cabin in the woods out in the middle of nowhere for kinky sex stuff. And she gets handcuffed to the bed, and then in the middle of kinky sex, he has a massive heart attack and dies. And she's left handcuffed to the bed. And the way they do it there, because she's left alone for a while, and the way they do it there is that she hallucinates, one, another her in the room talking to her, and two, the husband coming back to life and talking to her. So it's actually like a three-way conversation between her, and her. But yeah, that's a visual way of doing it. I like the idea of him actually like having a conversation with himself out loud.
In a dialogue, yeah.
Yeah, like properly being like he's going crazy, properly being like, no, I can't do that. Well, yeah, you can actually. You can do that. Well, no.
Yeah,
like,
actually, yeah, that could be some powerful acting.
Yeah,
you know?
or I mean, he builds to that, you know, like he
because it would be a
point.
transition. It would be a slow mental transition into insanity, and you could really delve as an actor. If you were good at acting, you could delve into all of the emotions, thoughts, feelings that you'd go through while slowly.
You know what? That could be a good way. That could be a
mind.
good way of figuring out what sort of person it is. What sort of actor?
Yeah. How do you think is a good way? What do you think is a good portrayal of this? Do you want someone who loses their mind? Like, in what way? In what way is it good?
Okay, I'm going to suggest this, and it's not because of the film Joker. It isn't. Okay? Because it's not, I promise.
Okay.
I promise, it's not about the film Joker.
Okay, yeah.
But Walking Phoenix. Maybe someone of, like, his kind of style, you know? Especially if he's, like, because, like, that's a question, like, because a university lecturer, they're not too old.
What about who's the bald
actually,
guy
they're beautiful.
who plays in that horror movie where he's the schizophrenic and he kidnaps two girls?
Oh, fucking Professor Xavier.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy.
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
I feel like he could be quite good at that sort of thing.
Yeah, to be fair.
He has quite good range. I think he'd be good, you know.
So yeah, like a younger man, like 30s.
Yeah, like a work, you know.
A guy with energy, so you can kind of see that energy slowly deplete too.
Yeah.
Like Vsauce. Vsauce had a ton of energy.
He did, yeah. He had so much energy at the start. You could tell he was thinking, doing stuff, you know, running his mind round and round in circles, staying busy. And eventually, you know, you can only go through the same thought process so many times. And eventually he just ran out of steam and he was literally just lying down, sitting down, not saying anything, not doing anything, not moving.
Yeah, but I just thought of an angle we could go that would be like really cool. And the actor would have to be dedicated. It would have to be Christian Bale, all right? Yeah. So at first, he's trying to keep himself busy, like Vsauce was. He's doing exercise. So we actually start to see him build a bit of muscle.
Yeah.
And then, once he loses the energy, we see him wither back down.
Yeah.
And we see him get skinnier.
Yeah.
Like, we see him we see him pushing to try and reach his height and then drop back to the low.
Yeah, the sort of, like, physical loss that he's made.
Yeah. And how he was trying to turn it into a positive, and it turned into an even worse negative, you know?
So he moves past that phase, because, you know, so realistically, you know, let's say it's a Christian Bale type character.
I feel like, yeah, a young Christian Bale would be.
But how old is he now?
Now I love Christian Bale. He's a fantastic actor, but no, I feel like if we want a younger one, he's pushing like 50.
I think James McAvoy.
James McAvoy would be a good one, yeah. I don't know how much physical, like, he got buff for Split.
He did.
He did get buff for Split, but I don't know about him, like, getting skinny.
Yeah.
When?
He is a skinny dude.
Yeah,
That's
but
how he's
like,
built.
Yeah, but we're talking, like, if he's already skinny, we need him to get really skinny in order to show it.
That's easy for his body type, definitely. Definitely. But, like, what type of character is that? What would he look like? What would he talk like? How would he act? You know, this situation hasn't happened yet. He's out in the wild. First
of all, he starts with short hair and ends it with long.
Yeah.
Well, longer.
Yeah.
He fucking... Yeah, no, he starts off as like, he was an upbeat guy. He was a university lecturer. He loves people.
Yeah, yeah.
And he knows that, he loves talking. He loves hearing the sound of his own voice. He knows that he's a good...
Are we going more on the nerdy side or more on like the serious side?
Start off nerdy.
Yeah.
Move to serious, because you can't stay optimistic in a situation like that.
Yeah.
We see him drained.
Yeah.
And maybe so if he gets out, maybe that's how he's irreversibly changed. He's no longer that sort of upbeat guy.
So he comes in with a lot of, he comes with a lot of social energy. He has social energy. He likes to talk. He likes to, have active energy, socialising with people. You start to see it slowly wear away.
And we see him do shit like Vsauce did, where he's like patting his legs and he's counting, like he's trying to keep his mind occupied. Maybe he's like fucking saying aloud a novel or some shit like that,
We hear him counting in like 9,972, 9,973.
1 million!
Oh my god. But the thing is, he could.
Well, no.
In 21 fucking days.
No, 1 million seconds is like... It's like years.
There's 80,000 seconds in a day.
No, 1 million. Or is it 1 billion? 1 billion seconds is like 34 years.
Yeah, so I'm saying a million. So a million would be quite close. There's 80,000 seconds in a day. So 80,000 times 20 is 1,600,000. So he would be able to get to 1 million seconds.
Well, he's not going to do that, because that'd be a boring film watching a man count 1 million.
Most of his time is spent counting to 1 million. That's the movie, that's it.
The movie's 1 million seconds long.
It's called A Million. Yeah, that's good.
So he starts off upbeat, and when he's in the room, so he starts off with that flash of anger, where he's banging at the door like, what's going on? Once he calms down, he's like, oh, okay, I've got to, don't let myself break down here, I've got to keep myself thinking, gotta think, and we see him, try and keep himself positive, and eventually we start to realise, hold on, he's talking to himself a lot more. Now he's like, originally it was comments, but now he's having full conversations with himself. Yeah. Wait, did he just get angry at something he just said? How could he offend himself? What's going on?
Yeah.
There's a third one now.
The slow descent into madness.
Yeah. And especially because if he is in a room like that and he can't, like, his time is subjective, he won't even see how far he's fallen.
What will come first? Loss of energy or anger? At what point do you think you would become angry? Because I would definitely become angry at some point. Yeah. At some point in this sort of situation, with the amount of loss, like you've basically lost your family, your life, everything, you're going to be angry. But at what point do you turn angry?
For me, I think I'd be at my angriest when, to me, it feels like it's been 21 days.
Yeah.
Like, when it feels like it's been over that, I'd be pissed. I'd be
so when it first, the situation is first introduced...
I would start with anger, but eventually that anger would dissipate, but then it would build back up once I feel like I should have been released already.
Yeah. And that's the question. Would you let the anger consume you, and would you give up before the 21 days, or would you in human nature just survive? Because that's the thing, people have difficulty, even people with severe depression will have difficulty overcoming the challenge of actually doing that. So
it's a hard thing to, like, thinking about it and doing it is a very different story.
Especially when there's nothing there to help you do it. You would have to, like, bash your head on the sink.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. What's his sleeping arrangement? Does he have, like, a pillow and bed, or is it just, like, a mattress?
I'd say probably the same as what was in Vsauce's episode. So they just have, like, a mattress on a bed, so it's a small single bed.
And he has one pillow.
With one pillow, yeah. And white bedding, enough to sleep perfectly fine. But the light's always on.
The light is always on, and it's very bright.
Yeah, and that's the thing, again, going back to it. If you've just, you've woken up, you're like, how the fuck did I get here? What? I was in my house earlier. How did I get here? Would you actually believe that it was real? I don't think I would believe it was real because it would be so improbable. It would make no sense. How am I here? It doesn't make sense. How did I get here? This is impossible. This hasn't happened to anyone. There's nothing like this has ever been on the news. This type of shit isn't real. This is made up. I'm dreaming.
Well, that is if he was to just wake up there, but that mean he'd probably have the memory of like, you know, being drugged, or maybe the guy attacked him or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't remember how he got there.
So you think you would establish that? You wouldn't just have him not knowing how he got there?
Well, he's already going to have some idea because of the note from the kidnapper. So I feel like it would just be, like, added benefit. Well, not added benefit. I mean, it doesn't even need to be said, but, like, there's no reason why he can't remember being... Or, like, he can try and recollect, you know, as, like, you know, like, where the fuck was I? Like, what happened? Like, kind of thing, you know?
Okay.
How did I get here?
How did he get
How
there?
did he get there?
How did he get there? Speaking of Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, let's take a quick break.
And take a quick break and, you know, discuss some fucking Rick and Morty. The new season is out.
Yes, 3 episodes of season 5 have aired. And you know what? They are 3 episodes of Rick and Morty of season 5.
Yeah, they are. That's what they are.
It's true.
That is what it says on the tin.
Don't doubt me.
That's what it says on the tin. And they're brilliant.
Well. Let's talk.
Yeah.
The first episode, I'm going to alright, here's a fun game. I'm going to try and remember the title of all of them. I think I know the last 2. I think the first one was called...
It wasn't anything to do with Nimbus. I can't remember what the fuck it was.
It wasn't anything to do with Nimbus. Okay, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
The first one, well, it was a fun one though. I know the last 2. I know them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the first one, the plot of it, because they always have 2 plots.
Yeah.
The first plot was that Morty inadvertently pissed off Rick's nemesis, Mr. Nimbus.
Mr. Nimbus.
And thus Rick, out of fear, invites him to dinner in the hopes that he can resolve it and find peace, while sending someone to find his magic conch.
His magic shell to break it and take away his power.
And the B story, which was, I mean, Mr. Nimbus was an incredibly fun character. We'll talk more about him, but the B story was the better story in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Morty again inadvertently pisses off an entire civilization of people.
No, he doesn't just piss off a civilization, he creates a civilization.
He creates a civilization that see him as a devil and have literally grown in fear of and to defeat him.
Worshipping him, you know, as like, as the devil.
And the reason he does this is because there's a portal and time in their world moves a lot faster.
Yeah, so Rick gives him some wine and he says, "Oh, Mr. Nimbus only drinks the good stuff, put this in this portal."
He's
and it'll
Mr.
age
Nimbus.
super fast, you know, decades in minutes. And he chucks it in there and he says, "Okay, you can go and get it out in like a couple minutes and it will have aged by a couple of years." Yeah. And Morty goes in there and, you know...
and a kind old man with a kind man with a pregnant wife. It's like, "Hello, young man. Hello, you're Morty. Hello, young Morty man. What are you doing here?"
Oh, geez, I'm just here to get some wine.
"Oh, you're here for wine. Well, please, Mr. Young Man. Let me help you. Let me help you deliver this wine through this portal." So he takes the box of wine, heavy box, and he goes through the portal with Morty. And Morty's like, "Oh geez, old man. I've got to go upstairs. Do you have any advice?" And the old man's like...
And he gives him, like, heart-filled advice.
Like Uncle Ben to Spider-Man level advice. Like, beautiful. And Morty's like, geez, thanks, old man." And the guy goes back through the portal, and the house has aged dramatically. The land is dead. Everything's dark. He goes into the house, and he finds his wife's decayed corpse, skeleton.
Because he's been gone for like 20 years.
20, 30 years. And as he sees his dead wife, his aged son, who is now an adult, comes through the door and is like, "Why did you abandon us, father?" And as he's trying to explain, he says, "Oh, the little boy through that portal, he gets killed by his own son."
Yeah.
he brings the wine to Mr. Nimbus. And okay, let's quickly talk more about Mr. Nimbus. What an amazing guy.
Okay. They tried to... They took the character idea of, we're going to think of someone funny. We're going to make him weirdly sexual.
We're going to make him
sexual.
Incredibly sexual.
For just no apparent reason. And he's going to be a fish man, because we've got to make him weird as well. You can't have him,
He's like a hypersexual Aquaman.
Yeah.
Who's also an actual fish. He also has the best fucking 3 lines that have the most impeccable delivery. Recite them, Hector. What's the first one? It's a fight. Fuck. Flee. Because Mr. Nimbus controls the police. He controls the police.
And why?
Because he's Mr. Nimbus. And he also wants to have a 3-way with Jerry and Beth, but that plot's not too big, so we're not going to really discuss it, I feel like.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But yeah, so he brings the wine to Mr. Nimbus. Mr. Nimbus cracks open a bottle, drinks some of it, smashes it on the ground and says, "Another! There's only 1 wine left. Ah, jeez. And Morty gives him that wine. He takes a sip, throws it on the ground. There's no more wine for Morty and Jessica. What are they going to do? Morty goes back through the portal, and the old man's son who killed him is now an old man himself, and he looks up at Morty and goes, "You!" and points at him, and
he fucking rips off his shirt. To reveal chiseled abs.
He's got an 8-pack. And Morty begins to beat the shit out of him, at which point his grandchildren appear, and they're like, "Grandfather," and he's like, "It's him, it's the boy," and they're like, "Oh my god, you were telling the truth, grandfather." He beats the shit out of the old man, he gets the wine, he leaves. The grandfather might have died, I don't remember, but the grandkids are like, "We should have believed you, grandfather, we're going to be ready next time."
And then there's a montage.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I don't remember exactly how that wine gets destroyed. But eventually he needs to go back in for more wine. He goes back in. Yeah, no, that is when the montage. They have created a castle fortress,
a civilization
with the portal in the middle, and they're ready to strike any moment. He comes back in for more wine, and they're like, "Holy shit, it's him!" They all point several fucking missiles and guns and all that shit.
It was like catapults and shit like that.
Yeah, medieval type shit. And Morty's like, "Oh, geez, you don't need to do this, guys." And they all shoot it, and he goes through the portal, and he gets pissed. And he's like, "Nah, fuck this." And he gets some of Rick's weapons. And I don't know if you know this, Hector, but Rick, he's a badass motherfucker. He's a stone cold dick killer. And so he comes in and he fucks up. Because again, he went through the portal, time has passed. They thought he was dead, they had celebrated. He comes back through and annihilates most of the civilization, leaving only
destroys the building. The castle just topples to the ground. So
he comes back through and he's got the wine. And at this point, Mr. Nimbus and Rick are... Don't judge me.
Wait, can we pause?
Yeah.
I need to piss.
You need to piss.
I need to piss. I'm going to say this on podcast. I'm going for a fucking piss.
Okay.
Oh no. I was tripped on a podcast.
Oh,
this is live.
This is live. We're streaming. While I'm here, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. We haven't got one. It'd be cool if we did. Maybe Audible? Where should we take it from?
So, Morty had just you just destroyed the castle. The castle was crumbling behind him.
He did.
Yeah.
The castle was crumbling behind him. He gets back into the fucking kitchen where the entire family has commersed, including Jessica. And Jerry, being a fucking Jerry, classic Jerry.
Classic Jerry moment.
It's a classic Jerry moment. He fucking makes him drop the wine, and Morty's like, "Oh, fuck." At which point, a Terminator version, essentially, of one of those guys from the portal.
Oh. Well, no. Wait, yeah.
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 Like they trained a fucking super ninja Batman Terminator guy to go back in time wearing a super suit that prevents the time distillation shit, and that will, like, you know, make him strong. And he goes and he tries to fight Morty. Jessica, I think it is, rips off one of the valves for the time distillation juice, whatever it is. Jizz. It's jizz. It's cum.
It's cum.
It's cum.
It's cum.
So yes, and she rips that off, and the guy, like, gets sent through time, and he goes to the end of time, and he sees, like, the giant bird of time.
Such a waste.
Such a waste.
And then he dies. But Jessica gets pulled back through the portal because she touched this guy's suit, which kind of allowed him to be in Morty's world, you know, where time travels at a different speed. Fucking Jessica fucked with it, and she got sucked back into the other dimension with the suit.
Yeah, and even, you gotta remember, even a single second in the other in our dimension could be days in that other dimension.
So she was still living by the, like, time rules of like, you know, normal. So, like, she went in there and she was in there for decades, and then Morty came through, but she wasn't able to move or speak or do anything.
Yeah,
because
they put her in, like, they froze her in time, so she didn't age or anything. And then Morty comes, releases her, and tries to bring down the entire empire, but they're too strong. And when he eventually does come to save her, he is greeted by an older Morty, by a tree in whiteness. And he lets his guard down, and they're like, yeah, we got him. Could you believe we got him with that fucking tree bullshit? What the fuck? Like, it's a really funny scene. So yeah, and at which point, once he tries to bring down that little government, he tries to run through the portal. They grab him. He shouts for Rick. Rick is having an argument with Mr. Nimbus. Because Mr. Nimbus is like, I know your true self, Rick. You know, I am your best friend. You know, and
your enemy.
And he says what leads to my favourite line of the episode. Genuinely, one of my favourite lines in all of Rick and Morty. He mentions Rick's ex-wife Deborah, causing Rick. He's
like, or maybe it's because I am the only man to see how far you have fallen. What would
Deborah think? And Rick goes, don't you start spouting canonical bullshit with me, you little reckless...
He was like, don't start establishing canonical backstory with me, you fucking piece of shit. And then it comes back to Morty, like, screaming.
Such a good fucking line. I cried of laughter when I first heard that.
Yeah, that was good.
And yeah, so he leaves Mr. Nimbus and he runs in to save Morty. And then it's a cool little moment where we know that Rick has, like, cybernetic implants and he's a powerful guy, and they just fucking whip all of them out in an instant, and Rick's like, well, fuck, like,
we're fucked.
Yeah. And then once they're cornered and it seems like they're about to die, who comes in? But Mr. Nimbus, who controls the police, by the way.
Yeah.
And he floods the other dimension, which actually leads me to believe maybe, like, the other, like, how did he get there?
He's an interdimensional god.
Yeah, he's
Mr. Nimbus.
He exists on oceans of every dimension.
You know, they say he controls the police, but were you foolish enough to believe that was all he could do?
My God, he is more powerful than Rick. That's why he's scared of him. He's actually the most powerful man in the universe, Mr. Nimbus.
Oh my God, it's Mr. Nimbus.
Mr. Nimbus.
That's why he's his most greatest enemy.
He is. And yeah, so they get back to Earth, and Morty is like, oh, Jessica, I'd love to see you again. And Jessica's like, no, I've lived for countless decades. I've seen civilization grow and collapse, and I am essentially a time god, time lord, time god. And she's like a Rick now. She's more like Rick than
she's
Morty
basically
now.
lived for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, like, she's got more experience in her head than Rick does at this point. Probably. Yeah. We don't know how long. Maybe Rick has frozen his age and he's actually 4 billion years old.
We don't know.
With a show like that, who does?
Yeah.
And Rick and Mr. Nimbus, you know, they're like, they seem to be buddy-buddy. It's like, hey, the peace treaty's done, man. I forgive you. And then someone comes in with the shell. Mr. Nimbus is like, you traitor! And begins beating the shit out of Rick. And Summer...
And then Summer's like, what should I do? What should I do? Should I blow the horn? Should I blow the shell?
Don't blow the shell.
No, don't blow it. And she blows the shell, obviously. She blows it. And then he just grows shit tons of muscles. Mr. Nimbus becomes super hench.
He becomes as buff as the old man in the
He beats the shit out of him even more.
At which point the police arrive and Mr. Nimbus is just like, police, take this scumbag away. And they do, because he controls police.
Yeah, he's like, police, take this piece of shit to jail.
And as he's getting in the car, Rick shouts, I told you guys, he's a stone cold dick killer.
He's an ice cold dick killer.
He's an ice cold dick killer.
Fucking hell. Yeah, but that is a fucking brilliant way to come back.
It was top tier Rick and Morty. The second episode, alright, this one I know the title of. It's Multiplicity.
Yeah.
And the plot of the episode is that we won't talk about this one for too long because there's not actually that much to talk about with this one.
No.
Yeah, basically it turns out Rick, with his severe paranoia that he's always in danger, has created decoys of the family. But those decoys being exactly like Rick.
Yes, the decoys are basically, well, they call them decoys, but the decoys are basically clones of himself and everyone else in the family put in an exact copy.
Well, they're
of
not
the
just
house.
clones, because remember there's that scene where Summer skins get ripped off, she's got a robot arm.
Yeah, so they're basically, well, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's a part of the plot. The originals are clones, but then as the decoys continue, the decoys they get worse and worse.
Their DNA gets like corrupted because when you make a copy of a copy, things start to get weird.
Yeah,
and that's basically there's copies making copies of copies.
It's like someone has screenshotted an Instagram picture
lots of times, over and over again,
and now there's exactly 7 pixels in the image.
But yeah, and so with these decoys there, an unknown force starts killing this family.
And they look like big octopus monsters.
Yeah, they look like flying octopus. Aliens, monsters, squids, space squids, something like that. And they kill the family. We see them all die. And then it cuts to another family. And Rick's like, oh shit, the decoy family died. And that's when we realise, the people we were just watching were decoys. And then... And
I remember when we first watched this our first reaction to this episode, we were into it at first.
Yeah.
Because at first it was really cool being like, oh shit, no, that's the decoy. And then as the episode progressed and more happened, we were just, eventually it was like, well, obviously these aren't the real family. I mean,
who knows who the real family is? Because, at the beginning you're kind of like, oh shit, they just died. I bet this is the real Rick and Morty, our Rick and Morty. And then those guys die, and you're like, oh fuck, well it has to be these guys. And then those guys dies.
It did have one interesting hook. I like that all the decoys that we were followed, when they get killed by another family, we start to just follow that family.
Yeah.
Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
I like that angle of it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it just continues. It continues.
It continues until it ends in a big decoy war, where a family of Rick and Morty that you assume is the real one survive, only to be taken out by what's his name? Mr. Always Wants to Be Hunted. Mr.
Oh yeah.
Hunt me. And he comes in, so he's introduced at the beginning shouting, hunt me. And at the end he comes in, he kills the family, and he's like, you should have hunted me. And the Rick that he kills doesn't know anything about him, so he's like, what? Who are you? Did we set you up? Are you significant to the plot? Why do you always want to be hunted? There were so many questions. And then he dies. And then at the very end, we go to what we actually believe to be the last family, because they are the only ones that are in space. And he does say at the beginning that decoys aren't that good at space travel, and they're mainly restricted to Earth-based adventures.
Yeah.
And they're also with Clone Beth.
Clone Beth. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, one of the decoy families are dead, and they're like, what? Basically, it was a giant filler episode. It was fun. But
I did really feel that while watching it. It got towards the end and I was like, this is just nothing. We're basically just watching nothing. It's just a fun little bit, it's a bit of fun.
It's fun at first, for sure.
It's a bit of fun. It's a cool concept, and they fleshed it out to be an episode that has no impact on the plot. To
be fair, one of the things that did keep me engaged was the deformities of the decoys going in. We had wooden decoys, we had that fucking serial killer Rick decoy.
Yeah.
And the fucking end credit scene with Puppet Jerry like his head becomes the only part of him, and that head lives through generations.
Oh my god, yeah,
of the Earth's
that's
future.
fucked.
That was one of the best end credit scenes ever. That was an amazing end credit scene.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, the episode was just very meh.
Episode. Yeah, it was just like they had some cool ideas, and they're like, right, we'll just do them as a separate thing.
Yeah.
You know, they just kind of put it in there.
And yeah, and then the third episode, we seem to have mixed opinions about, actually. It's called A Rick Convenient Mort.
Yeah.
And basically the plot of it, again, there's two plots. Yeah, the second one didn't have two plots. It was just all about that, which was interesting. Not many episodes do that. A lot of episodes have A, B, and C plots. But that one was just one big A plot. But yeah, so in this one, the A plot is that Morty has met a superhero called Planetina, and she is a fucking Captain Planet Earth-based superhero.
And she saves the world by stopping pollution and stopping littering.
Yeah, and she's eco-friendly and the power of the environment. And Morty falls for her hard, even though she's like an older woman. And she has like these kids, because Captain Planet, who it's based on, he had kids who had rings, and they put them together.
They put so there was a group of friends that had the rings, and when they put the rings together, it conjured up Planetina.
But in the Rick and Morty world, all these kids have grown up, and they're all using her for money. And they're actually planning, and this was a weird joke I realised for the episode to do in 2021. They're going to sell her to a random Arab.
Yeah.
Like, just an Arab. They specify Arab.
Yeah.
That feels like a Family Guy 2012 joke.
It does, doesn't it?
But yeah, and then we meet Eddie. Now, Eddie was fun. Eddie was a fun character. The guy who's one of the kids, but he's like a fucking mafia boss.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we don't want you to get hurt, kid.
Oh my god, yeah.
And then Morty fucking destroys him.
Yeah, basically he fucking challenges Morty.
He challenged Morty fucking Smith. Does he realise what he just did?
The
mortiest Morty.
And
he did that.
The OG, the fucking OG Morty.
Yeah.
Well, as far as we know. It could be a decoy, it could be in a different timeline.
Maybe evil Morty's the OG Morty, who knows?
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he kills the kids and gets their rings, which is... I shouldn't have even mentioned it, because it's never brought up again. He gets the rings of the kids, which give them powers. He basically becomes like a fucking airbender from Avatar.
Yeah.
And he never uses those rings again. Which, hopefully they come back.
Yeah.
Because that's basically, they're fucking infinity stones.
They basically introduced, elemental, power.
Yeah.
As, a thing, Morty basically beat the shit out of this guy that was trying to
with everything he's seen, I get him not being that impressed with it, but damn, would come in handy. You can't deny that. You'd keep those rings on you, Morty. And yeah, and eventually, Planetina, now she hasn't got her fucking kids that ground her, she ends up becoming murderous, because humans are just awful and we're destroying the planet. This is actually a global warming message in the middle of the podcast, okay? We need to wake up, okay? Listen to Planetina, voiced by the amazing Alison Brie. Listen to her, because she's right. We should all...
Oh my god. That's too much for YouTube.
But fucking... That is actually... I might have to bleep that. Yeah. But yeah, and Morty is not happy with the fact that his love interest is murderous, so he leaves her. And that's basically the end of that little story. And then the B story is Rick and Summer are going to 3 planetary apocalypses in order to eat ass and pussy and tits.
It's a bit distasteful.
And Rick picks up a fucking... I think her name's like Stephanie or something.
Yeah.
And she's got the galaxy's greatest elbow titties. Her elbow titties have she says... And you know what? This is like an amazing quote. She said that those elbow titties have started wars. I would love to see an episode based on that.
The elbow titties of this alien have started wars.
They're that good.
Yeah.
And by the end, on the 3rd planet, which the entire planet is having an orgy, there's a father fucking a son, an entire planet is fucking. Summer adverts that apocalypse in order to show Rick that Stephanie is superficial, which she is, and proves. And Rick is like, I gotta hand it to you, Summer. That was a very Rick move of you. I'm proud of you. And Summer's like, I love you, Grandpa. And he's like, don't make it weird, Summer. And And that's that story. And yeah, I personally, I think this is... I've slept on it, okay? I have. I think this actually is one of the weakest episodes of Rick and Morty.
Really?
I actually do.
Why?
It's just... It's hard to explain, but... Especially now, with, like, how the show has, like, grown and progressed... Like, there's been an evolution in the way they tell stories. Like, I mentioned it with the Vat of Acid episode is a really good example.
Yeah.
That episode could not be watched at any point before the point it was aired because of how far their relationship had grown, you know?
Yeah.
But in this one, it seems to reduce all the characters back to an original self. Morty has been through a lot and he has killed a lot of people. Him being horrified by her killing 30 people, that's like season 1 Morty. Like, he shouldn't be that horrified by it at this point. He's seen a lot worse. And Rick falling in love and doing that sort of shit, like, that's season 1 Rick.
Maybe that was supposed to be it.
Like, we haven't seen him in love since Unity. And in the Unity episode, if you forget, that ending was him trying and failing to kill himself. One of the darkest endings of an episode. He was devastated by Unity. We haven't seen him fall in love since. It honestly felt like a season 1 episode. But it's in season 5. And that's a problem.
But the thing they have to fall back on is that they can time travel.
And to be fair, no, but they don't time travel. Not in Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty they've only done time travel once in the Snake episode. Here's what I'm thinking, because I actually found out the writer of this episode, this was his first Rick and Morty episode. Maybe this was maybe this was a script he'd written for season 1.
Oh,
because that's
makes sense.
Honestly, that's how it felt to me. Like, the characters, their evolution for the past like fucking mainly 2 seasons. The 2 seasons like 3 and 4 when it became like different and darker and weirder. It felt like a pre Wedding Squanches episode, because the Wedding Squanches, the season 2 finale, changed the game of Rick and Morty. It changed the show. Yeah. It felt pre that.
It did, but however, also, it kind of like reminds you that Morty is just a kid, and his grandpa Rick is just a man. You know, you can take it in that way as well, because you know his grandpa Rick. You know, Rick. You know, he's done all this shit, but he is just a man. You know, he only has the brain of a human.
Yeah, but even that is a pre-season 2 thing. Remember, I told you, season 3 was the first season to call Rick outright the smartest man in the universe, to make him like an actual god. He hasn't been presented as just a man since season 2.
That's true.
It felt like it was treading old ground, and it hadn't catched up with the new material. Like Morty, 2 episodes prior, destroyed an entire civilization, and she killed 30 people. It felt off to me.
However, people do self-project. You know, when they feel like they've done something horrific, they'll self-project. If someone does something similar, they'll overreact to it.
I mean, she didn't die at the end. Maybe she'll come back.
Yeah. You know, it could be, because it kind of reveals his mum was right. You know, his mum said, you aren't ready for a relationship at this age. You know, it won't last, it won't last a month. And it didn't.
It didn't.
You know, it didn't. She was right. She was ultimately right. She knew her son best, and she knew that he was still a 14-year-old boy. Look,
she knew, but I just feel like her reason for why was very different. And the real reason for why it didn't work out from the show's logic seems almost hypocritical.
Which is?
Because for her, it was a case of, no, there's an age difference, you're just a child. But the show presents it as, no, he's like, he's horrified by these murders, and like, he's horrified by the fact that he can't have one nice thing that doesn't turn bad, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, he's done so much worse. Right, forget the fucking destroying a civilization thing. Do you remember what he did to Summer's ex-boyfriend? So yeah, that's the episode where she becomes a giant because she's trying to grow out her big boobies so that her ex-boyfriend Ethan. Do you remember Ethan? That was his name.
Yeah, I do.
So Morty takes that machine that she used to become a giant, and he confronts Ethan in the forest, and he's like, "You made my sister cry, Ethan." that's not nice. And then he turns the machine on. And then in the end credits scene to that episode, we see what he did to Ethan. And he has grown and shrunk various parts of his body, making him a deformed fucking monster. And he left him in the woods, and we see him waddling home crying.
Holy shit.
That's what Morty did to that teenage boy, because he dumped his teenage girlfriend.
Yeah, that's serious.
Like, he has done some shit. I just thought it was hypocritical. He's done worse. He's done a lot worse than killing Faye.
But that's the thing. A 14-year-old boy would be immature and hypocritical. So they did a good job.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't
Because
know.
they pissed you off.
Look, maybe when the season finishes, you know, and I've had a lot of time to sleep in it, I'm sure my rating of the episode might change. Who knows? But for now, I don't know.
I personally thought it was better than the previous episode.
I would disagree with that.
The previous episode explored nothing other than their idea. It didn't explore the characters. It didn't further anything that was already established. Whereas this episode, you get to see Morty properly falling in love. Like, you know, it's different to the Vat of Acid episode. It's different to the previous stuff, you know, with Jessica. He properly falls in love, you know, like properly. And his mum is like there, and it kind of like shows the dynamic between him and his mum through that process of him falling in love and thinking he's ready to move out. And then his mother was ultimately right, that he wasn't ready.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel it. Again, if it came out in season 1 or 2, I might have a really different reaction to it. But I don't know. It didn't feel right where it was placed.
I respect that opinion.
Now, you said in the pee break that you had another idea about the film, so let's get back to that.
Oh.
You mentioned it's about mirrors.
What if... So, you know, if you're filming this, one, you know, it's all great in practice, you know. We can have a great story, but it's a film. It needs visuals, you know, and it's going to be challenging to visually show a film that resides in the one room and it's an empty room that's completely white. There's going to be a film challenge there. How do you do that? And I think one thing to help with that is to add in one really, really simple element that adds an additional aspect of visual to it, and that's a mirror. If you put a mirror in there, it now incorporates, you know, his interaction with visual stuff. He's going to be interacting with himself in the mirror, pulling weird faces, talking to himself. You know, he might have conversations and, like, you know, picture a made-up scene through the mirror that we get to see through the perspective of the mirror, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, he plays a character, oh, hi, Bobby, how you doing? And he suddenly flips around, oh, hi, Harry, yeah, I'm just doing the farming, and he's talking to himself in the mirror, picturing the scene. You know, you could do shit like that, like weird shit like that. No. And that's what a man would do when he starts to lose his mind.
I love this idea for one specific reason. I think when he reaches his lowest point in the room, he has to smash the mirror.
As soon as you do that, you've kind of cut yourself off from any visual contact with anything.
But here's the thing. Once he smashes that mirror, he gets a thing he can use to kill himself.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Do we want to give him that? Do we want to make that easy for him?
I didn't think about that. No, it would just have to be like something that you can't break, like plastic. Like a plastic window. Rather than a mirror actually hanging on the wall, it's like there's a window in the wall. And you can't break the glass. It's like really thick. Either really thick
You know
glass.
what then? If that's actually the case, that might actually be better, because it might actually feel like... It might actually be really disorientating to become... Like, make the entire wall a mirror. Like you're living with yourself.
It looks like a two-way... What do you call it? A one-way window. What's that? Is that what it's called?
Do you mean like a one-way window?
You know, where people can... It's a window on the other side. They can see you. But when you look, it's a mirror. What's that called?
What, just like reflective? Like two-way? Two-way
Is that a
glass.
two-way mirror? Is that what it's called?
Don't Google it.
I'm not going to Google it, but
doesn't
you know
matter.
what I
I know what
mean.
you mean.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
I know
talking
what you
about,
mean. I
right?
know
You
what
know,
you
it's a mirror for them, but, you know, the person on the other side can see you.
Yeah.
You know, what if it's like that, you know, just in the wall? He can't break it. The glass is too thick. He can see that it's a fucking one of those because there's glass in front of it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If it's the entire wall, he can get that disorientating feeling of like he's watching himself go through
However,
this.
that I feel like that changes, that dramatically changes the feel of the movie because it's now a lot more visual than mental because it's more about him losing his mind because of how disorienting and creepy it is to be in a mirror. Whereas if it's just one mirror, it's more about.
No, that's what I mean. It can be one mirror, but I mean, can the entire wall be a mirror? Not a wall of mirrors, one big mirror.
That's a good question.
So it's like the room is like twice the size. Like there's an invisible barrier in the middle.
I feel like to overcome technical challenges, you'd want it to just be one mirror.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I thought of a really cool scene there because if you do it like that, so like it's so perfect. It looks like there's like an invisible barrier, and it looks like the only thing stopping him from coming to the other side is him. And at one point, he could convince himself that he actually did pass through the mirror, and he like passed through himself.
But how would you film that? Because if it's a wall of mirror, you've got the cameraman standing there. What, we're going to pay someone to properly do that nicely? Because
that's a really good question.
That is a challenge.
Filming that would be a bitch. Oh, you're right. Fuck's sake. Yeah,
it would have to be
a normal mirror.
It would have to be a single.
A single mirror. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It would have to be a single mirror. But yeah, no, like, because it'd still be disorientated. Yeah, I think visually, it'd be a really good addition to have that, and to have we could like in Spider-Man when Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin have that talk in the mirror.
Yeah. Something like that.
Do shit like that.
Yeah. 100%.
Alright, so how we're gonna have to wrap up the podcast soon. So what better way to wrap it up than talking about how would we wrap up this movie? What ending do we want to give this guy?
There's different options, aren't there? You could leave it a mystery, so we don't actually know. Did he get out? Was he let out? Is he still in there? It kind of leaves it open, but that also comes across as kind of lazy.
Here's the thing, there's a very specific reason I don't want to do that, and that's because I did that with my first film. So I want to give this one a nice closed ending. Does the guy who put him there, does he get caught?
Here we need to ask, what do we want our film to achieve? As in, what effects do we want it to leave on people? Do we want it to teach people what, you know?
It's a film about how far it takes a man to want to commit suicide.
To truly commit.
Which means the entire film is about mental health. Well, no, actually, it's the same as the Vsauce thing. It's about isolation.
Yeah,
that's what the film is about.
Which is struggling through anxiety, depression. Social anxiety.
It's not just a film about being trapped in a room. It's a film about feeling like you are trapped in a room alone. And that's actually And if that's the case, then I guess the message is
there's hope.
Yeah,
that's a good message to have.
We have to let him out of the room then.
Yeah,
there cannot be any hope.
It shows, but it needs to show. He wasn't just let out of the room. He didn't just get out of the room and he was like, oh.
What, he figured a way out of the room?
No. I mean, he gets out of the room, but it's not over. He's got the mental struggle now to recover from what just happened to him. We could show like a part of that, because what would actually happen to a man if you came out of that situation? Realistically, what do you actually think you would be like after you came out of that situation?
You would dissociate from humanity, essentially.
Yeah.
You would have felt so completely alone that other people would be like, I don't know, scary in a way. Like, as much as you wanted it, you'd be almost like, for you, that's such a long amount of time. Yeah, you'd feel like tremendous anxiety about going back into the real world as much as you want it. That's why I suggested that possible dark ending earlier, that maybe he doesn't want to leave the wall. The room. I called it the wall. Oh my god. That's so embarrassing. But yeah, no, maybe, yeah, but no, he has to leave. Does the guy who put him there get caught? Does he get justice?
Is the lesson, is the, what, you know, the meaning behind this really about why the person did it to him, or is it more about what happens I think it's more about what happens to a man when you're put in that place.
If the person doesn't get caught, then we don't need to reveal his identity.
Yeah.
Which we don't. Like,
we don't.
Yeah.
It's not really relevant why, him being, even just him being caught or him being brought to justice isn't relevant to the story. It's just kind of like a side note to make the viewers feel like, oh yeah, everything's okay.
You know what we could do? We could have it be like throughout the film, he's going through people he's wronged, like in his head, like trying to figure out who would be deranged enough to do this to me.
Yeah.
What did I do? And he's going through like, my name is Earl Stoll. He's going through the list of all the things he's done wrong. His name is Earl. Can we call him Earl? Can that be his name now? The man's name is Earl.
The man's name's Earl. Right, but we could portray him. He's beginning the process of finding out who did this. So the movie ends and we know that he's gone out there to try and find who did this.
I don't know about that one, because again, that seems like we're opening up to like a franchise, a sequel.
That's true.
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe someone like suggests that and he's like, I just want to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, yeah. Yeah, that would be severely traumatic.
Like, I as much as I would love justice, after all of that, I just want to be... ironically enough, I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Something like that. We can end it on like that sort of twisted irony line of, ironically enough, I just want to be left alone.
Do you think it would just completely mentally destroy you?
It's the entire situation of it, though.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, like, again, Vsauce, it fucked him up. He was in there for 3 days and he could have left.
He knew that he could have left
whenever he wanted. Like, in that situation, there'd be so much...
It's a lot different.
There'd be so much trauma.
Yeah.
But...
Man, it's going to be an interesting thing to explore on screen.
Yeah. So, this episode... And I suggested this in the pee break, but we might as well talk about that. Yeah, we're going to try and do this more. We'll do some episodes where we find a good idea and we try and, like, create a film. Like, we try and plan it out and shit. Because, hey, that's the plan. We want to make films. We want to do shit.
Yeah.
And this is the best way.
And this is the best way to practice it. Doing a podcast where we talk about it.
Doing a podcast where we talk about it.
What is it? You'll find out in the next episode.
It's true.
Cliffhanger. No, I'm just kidding. It's cringe.
No, to be fair, I mean, we practically, like, obviously we'll go into it in more detail, but I mean, that's the groundwork for the film right there,
Yeah.
Like I say, the deed is done.
On to the next one.
We're shaking hands now.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Nethergreen. I mean, we're going to record it weekly, but I don't know if are we releasing it weekly? We can do.
Yeah, we can do.
What day should we try release? I mean, to be fair, give me enough time. If we're recording it Thursdays, let's say episodes Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Give me enough time.
Gives you a week's sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that works. That works out best.
So yeah, this episode will be released on a Wednesday, and next Wednesday you can expect a new episode of Nethergreen.
Oh yeah.
And if you do happen to listen to this, comment some things for us to talk about. Comment some movie ideas. We will comment the most random, batshit weird idea you've got, and we will make it a movie. If Kevin Smith can make the film Tusk, we can make anything.
Anything. The universe is our oyster at this point.
This is true.
Tusk
is, by the way, you know what? One day we're going to do a podcast where we review that movie.
Most definitely.
In fact, you know what? We're going to do a double podcast. One where we review it, and then we're going to do a fucking full-length commentary track where we watch it and we talk through.
So I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen this movie yet.
Oh my god, you know what? We're actually going to do that. Yeah, can we actually do that?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
a good reason for you to watch it, because he's scared to watch it. He doesn't want to watch Tusk.
I'm not scared to watch it. I just don't want to. All right. I don't watch movies anyway, so I especially don't want to watch that.
But if we record a commentary track where we talk over it...
Yeah, I would watch it, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. I have been Bradley.
And I've been Hector.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace out.
Bye.
Nice. You.
Blah, 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 blah.
Hector. How the fuck do you pause this thing?